in advance of the 2014 elections, guys.
All right, John, stay there. Let's talk more about this as we bring in Douglas Holtz Eakin. He's president of the American Action Forum, for more on why this delay came about and what it means for how this bill will be paid for. And let me just point out, Doug, we're tight on time because of all the breaking news, and we are headed toward the closing bell, so we'll have to cut to the chase on this. What do you make of this delay and how it's going to be paid for down the road?
Well, I think the incentives are very clear. There are a lot of employers who are thinking about dropping coverage. About half in most surveys are contemplating it. What this does is says for 1 year you can do that without penalty. So dropping coverage is on sale. We'll see how many do it. If a lot do it, then the budget impacts are large, because as John mentioned, there are a lot of subsidies out there in those exchanges. The other big incentive is just on part-time employment. We'll see what happens there.
Yeah. I guess, Doug, part of me feels like, well, business was complaining about the expense. Right. Maybe this is a positive for business. But then the other part of me says, well, wait a second. Isn't this just pushing the reality just out another year? And does this create even more uncertainty? Which, of course, has been the case for business.
Right. The latter point is very important. This is a mixed set of incentives. It says drop now, but changing your employment mix from part-time to full-time or back, you don't know yet. And so they may just throw up their hands and look around. It's a very complicated situation.
John, obviously moving the delay to 2015 takes us past the midterm elections. What does that do to the whole political dynamic of this?
Honestly, I think not a great deal, because there's still going to be a lot of targets for critics to attack. Of course, the administration's got to set up these exchanges, got to try to enroll young, healthy people in the system, which is necessary to make it work, since they're trying to spread the risk around and make it possible for people who aren't young and healthy to afford insurance they haven't been able to afford on the individual market so far. The one thing I would say on Maria's point about uncertainty is there hasn't been much uncertainty for 95% of businesses with more than 50 employees. They already offer coverage. They do it and have done it, even though they're not mandated to already. So why exactly people would take this delay as an excuse wholesale to drop large amounts of coverage is not clear to me.
Well, it's not actually quite as simple as that, John, because what matters is the kind of coverage you offer. And so while many employers have coverage, that coverage might not qualify under the Affordable Care Act. This relieves them of the obligation of having so-called affordable insurance. So we'll see how it plays out.
All right, gentlemen, good to see you both.
The president has talked so much. Yeah.
Go ahead, Maria.
All right, we'll wrap it up. Thank you. Well, I was going to say the president has talked so much that this law will address the growing out-of-control cost of health care. I mean, is it doing that?
No. Short answer is no.
Well, I would say the short answer is we don't know. There is some evidence nationally that health spending has slowed down. The causes of that are in dispute. It's going to be a while before we know how much this law itself is affecting the trajectory of health spending.
All right. Thanks, gentlemen. Appreciate it.
Thank you both for your